to Churchy Chats with the Church Girl. If this is your first time here, my name is Alicia Wiley. I am the owner and creator of the Church Girl, which is a clothing line and a lifestyle brand that seeks to inspire and uplift everyone we have the privilege of connecting with. I am excited about tonight's episode. I have two very special guests, and I think you're going to enjoy our hot topics and all of that good stuff. But before we get into tonight's episode, I need you to share this broadcast right now. Tag people, let everybody know that Churchy Chats is on and they need to jump in. So let's get our guest in. We're not going to wait any longer. Welcome to the show, Kayla and Fred.
Hi, welcome.
I am so excited to have you both here. Let me tell this story straight out the gate. I feel old, but anyway, here it comes. Kayla is one of my former youth ministry members. I think she may have been in my first batch. And by that I mean when I first became youth pastor, she was probably in that first group. I was like 21. Oh, Lord. 21 or something like that. It wasn't that long ago, but she was one of those who were faithful, and I just hated to lose her. But I didn't lose her because she came back as a volunteer a couple of years later. So I am so excited to have you on, Kayla. Kayla, introduce yourself, and then Fred, follow up.
I'm so excited to be here. My name is Kayla Tanner. I'm the founder of Elite Tutoring Firm. It is just a K through 12 tutoring firm that's meeting the needs of the community, the students in our community. So glad to
That's
be here.
amazing.
Yeah,
Come
thanks
on,
for having
Fred, say
us.
hi to the people.
What's going on, y'all? Thanks for having us, Alicia. My name is Fred Johnson, founder and CEO of Fourth Education Firm, which is an educational consulting firm really focused on improving outcomes for high school and college students through workshops, trainings, just really anything we can do, and also direct support for families.
That's amazing. And I can't wait to dig into that a little more on a little bit later. But first, we're going to chat about a few hot topics that's going on. So, as you all know, um, I guess I don't know if it's been quite a month yet, but Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, I don't even know if he's like still wanting to be called Prince Harry. I don't know. But they had a sit down with Oprah, and, a lot of people had their opinions on it and stuff like that. And I'm guessing this is his uncle, Prince Albert. He kind of called them out, and here's the deal. He wasn't just like super um mean. I don't want to say the call out sounds like, he came out and he was acting crazy. I don't think it was quite that. He was just kind of like, I understand, but that's kind of something that probably should have been kept within the family. And I don't know, I want to get y'all's take on it. And before I do, I have to say this. In the black home, we are taught, what happens in the house stays in the house. So while I have mixed feelings about it, I understood kind of what he was saying. But what do y'all think?
Yeah, look, that's the first place my mind went to, and I was like, people might they might feel some type of way about this, but my thing was always like, okay, what was the purpose in talking to Oprah about that, right? And if they had a purpose of making money, then just be real about it. Like, look, that was a check, right? It's an opportunity
Right.
to put something on blast. If it was to kind of raise the consciousness of, I know that's in a different country, but with just race
Mhm.
relations globally, right? If that was their true intent, and I can see why they did it. But there's always going to be that piece of us that was like, that's an in-house situation. Y'all need to kind of figure that out within the realm of your family. So yeah, that's kind of where
Yeah.
I am with it.
What you think, Kayla?
And my views are a little different. So while I do understand that it is family business and it should kind of be kept within the family, I feel like they are public figures, right? And their family is a little bit different because their family reigns over a nation and
Mhm.
people have more of an intricate part within their family. So I think that in them having the interview with Oprah, it just more so put things in a different perspective. It allowed you to see that even on a royal level, as an African American citizen, it doesn't matter who you are, what position you are in, you are not exempt from racial profiling or receiving some type of negative feeling from those around you that are not the same color or nationality as you. So I feel like it was very important because it brought awareness to things that we might not have known were happening. You know, we might have thought, oh, she was welcomed with open arms and treated properly, and her children were treated properly. But that's not what happened. And I think that it was very brave of them to bring that to light because of the scrutiny that they would get from their family. You know, it's not just somebody in the public. That's something that that's people that you have to live with for the rest of your life. So that was very brave, I think.
Now, let me ask you all this. As I kind of thought about the interview, and I didn't watch the whole thing, like I came in the house and it was like towards the end. Do you all think that by doing the interview that anything will change with the situation with the royal family? Like, will this bring about any change, or do you think it was more about awareness?
Yeah, but that's always my biggest point, and Kayla's point is a great one. But I feel
Mm-hmm.
like there's all kind of things that we are aware of or become aware of. But to me, I'm really action oriented. So if action or change doesn't happen from it, not to say that awareness is not enough, but I feel
Sure.
like there's an additional level of either advocacy that Prince Harry and Meghan have to like add to that. It can't just be like we exposed it and not now we're not going to do anything with it. And so I think that is I don't think anything will change unless they make a deliberate decision to say actually because of this experience within our family, we're actually gonna invest ourselves more in this issue.
I agree. I feel like in this case, they presented the problem. Now it's time to present the solution. And the follow up, the perfect follow up, especially with the platform that they have now put themselves on, by exposing the truth behind the scenes, is that they do need to start some type of movement,
Mm-hmm.
and then making sure that there is every type of diversity plan happening around bringing awareness and holding those people accountable. And it might actually start, for lack of better terms, some form of revolution to where things can change for their country for the better. So definitely have to follow up with action.
Yeah, I think this is our first time really seeing um, a different race. Well, like I don't want to say a different race because they might be, Irish or German. So that is
Right.
technically a different race, but a different color,
Mm-hmm.
right? Being brought into the royal family, well, in recent times. And I don't know. I guess it's I have so many questions. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what was it like leading up? And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have gotten married or anything like that, but um, I guess I would have tried to fill out the situation beforehand. And I'm all for love, so I'm never one to say don't marry the person that you love. But, it just makes you kind of wonder what must have been going through her head and even through his head through all of this. Because Meghan Markle could almost be, she's almost racially ambiguous to where, you can't really say she's black. But her family, on the other hand, like her mom has lots dreads, so it's like you can really tell. But I think for them, it's mostly been a class thing. Like if you're below their class, then that's where they really had the issue, not so much race. But hopefully, by them speaking out, something can change. And it's sad, but it seems like everywhere we struggle with the color of our skin, and hopefully one day this won't be a conversation that we'll have to have about black people not being treated fairly. But, we journey forward.
Right.
So speaking of black people, um, Mona Scott Young, if you're not familiar with her, she is the producer on many of the shows that you see, the reality TV shows that you see of black women like Love and Hip Hop, and probably all of them on VH1. I think it's safe to say that she is the producer of those. And she had Uncensored. It aired on Sunday night, and She talked about how she feels like she's judged unfairly because, her male counterparts, namely Andy Cohen from Bravo, who is the producer for the Real Housewives franchise, she's saying that they do the same things, they push the same narratives, but they're not judged the way she's judged. I've been having some thoughts on this for a long time, so I'm kind of glad it came out. But I want to get you all's thoughts. Do you all think there is some inequity in that? That she's getting all this backlash, but her white male counterparts, or even her male counterparts, don't get the same response?
There's definitely look. We both like, I have mixed feelings about it too. I think on one end, I do agree with you. It's not equitable, right? There's not equal criticism across lines of color or gender, or like you could pretty much pick a number of identities, and
Sure.
it'll never be that way, right? And so
Right.
I wouldn't start to expect for there to be more scrutiny for Andy Cohen or any white male, female producers that are doing anything in any area, business and so forth. uh, she has a platform, and very few women, like she stated, very few black women have the platform that she has. And when we all reach that level of success, then we can make decisions about what it is we choose to do with our voice and our platform. This is where I would push her, is that I see what she's saying about voice and telling a story,
Mm.
but what is that storytelling? Is it and I'm not that's not to say like that can't be a piece of a story, but how
Right.
often do we see, even when I think about Married to Medicine, I don't know if that's her or
Mm-hmm.
not, but that was supposed to be a show about successful black women and like how they got there and their journey and upliftment and all those things,
Mm-hmm.
uplifting, and it still turned into a very gossip laden, backbiting, like all of the things that get ratings. And so my push for her will be, where's the content creation to truly put on blast and highlight black female success without incorporating all the stereotypes? Because I think her show, although it's great, it's successful, it just perpetuates the stereotype of black women that already exists. You aren't doing anything to counter that narrative. And so I want to see programming that helps to contrast and counteract and combat that narrative that's out there.
Absolutely.
And I would agree. So my first part A of my answer is I do I can understand and sympathize with her that she feels, why do I receive all of the backlash when I'm only doing what everybody else is doing? But I also feel like, with all due respect, that's a cop out.
Mm-hmm.
And just because everyone else is doing it doesn't justify me doing it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the reason why she receives so much backlash is because we look and we say, okay, it is already hard for us to have representation in places that have these type of platforms. And for you to be put in a position where you can executive produce a show, then show us in a good light.
Mm-hmm.
Show us in a different perspective than we are stereotyped. Don't show us as the angry black woman.
Right.
Show the the view of us being successful, being able to have positive and effective communication, being able to go out into our communities and actually have great change. She shows that in her shows, but I feel like that's trumped by so much of the negativity, the
Mm-hmm.
fighting that occurs. And yes, it is happening from other networks like Bravo,
Right.
but again, that's been happening. We had VH1 Real World. MTV
Mm-hmm.
Real World. We had College Hill on BET. That
Right.
also showed us it was supposed to be a positive light showing African American students in college. It turned real ratchet. It's like, how can we be exemplified in a positive way without it being trumped by negativity? Why does it need to have negativity for it to sell? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the real issue that people have with Mona Scott Young, is you were given a platform and you didn't use it in a positive way. You joined your counterparts and and for lack of better words, I feel like you ostracized your community. You added to that. You were a part of that. And that's
Yeah.
just my thoughts.
And I agree 100%. And I understand that drama sells and all of that type of stuff because I don't know if you all remember Rev Run had a show with his family, and then the girls had a show.
Hmm.
They were canceled basically because people said they were boring, right? They didn't have drama. Even when they had little arguments and stuff, it was nothing that, to the level of Love and Hip Hop and stuff like that. Same thing with Tia and Tamara. They had a show.
Mm.
There wasn't enough drama for people, so it didn't last. Now, I watched both of those shows and I was fine with it,
Yeah.
you know. But I think, like Kayla said, it's definitely a cop out. But what Mona Scott Young knows, because she's been in this world long enough to know, is first of all, we can't do what our Caucasian counterparts do, first of all. So if you're feeling, oh, I'm being criticized and beat up on, come on, girl, please, come on. Since when could we get away with doing the stuff that they do? That's just not a thing.
Yes.
But to have the success and to have the opportunity, like you both alluded to present women in, a good light, black women. There are many successful black women out here who don't put up with drama, who don't, live their lives like this. And why is this all that we see when we turn on the television as it relates to reality TV? So I don't really, sis, I don't really feel bad for you because this image that you're portraying is not the best, and even one of the former castmates said that, now I don't know if this is true, so allegedly, but she actually, sets this stuff up and is making sure that it's happening in each and every episode. And as it relates to the Real Housewives franchise, now I don't know if this is true, allegedly, there are repercussions, for them fighting and doing things like that. And you can be suspended or you can be altogether released from your contract if you go against, certain rules and regulations. So I don't know. I just feel like she's trying to say, woe is me, when I'm sorry, sis. I can't feel bad for you. I just,
Yeah, she could have taken the Shonda Rhimes route. I mean, Shonda put us
yes.
in a good light. She used her creative juices and she produced some really good work. And it didn't show us in a negative light. It actually
Exactly.
exemplified that African American creatives can join any industry and produce
Yes.
any type of work. And she did that. She showed that.
Yeah.
Tyler
And
Perry, he has dramas, but it's
girl,
television sitcoms. It's
that's
not
a whole nother story.
Right.
girl.
Right.
I look as I was saying, and I'm like, oh, this is an example, but it's a loaded
But
example.
yeah, it's an example though. It's an example, and you have to give credit where credit is due,
Right.
right? So where we have our feelings, most people have our feelings about Tyler Perry. He, the storyline might be always the same. However, he does try to represent African Americans in a good light, so that is something that you can appreciate. That's something that I'm grateful for, even though, you know, well,
But
I'm
he
gonna leave
has
that
the new
alone.
ones now. He has the new dramas that come on BET
Yeah, what,
that have a different storyline.
and that's good. I haven't watched his new ones. Lord help. Um, because I have, y'all, I have mad respect for this man, right? For what he has done, for what he has managed to build. But my feelings about the art itself, you
Yes.
know,
Got
Absolutely.
you
it.
know, it's neither here nor there. But we do have examples of people, like you said, Shonda, and even I don't want to say her name wrong, but it's the producer of Queen Sugar, Ava.
Yeah.
She
Is
has
it
done,
Duvernay?
Duvernay.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, she's done an amazing job as well. Not just black women necessarily, but showing the black family, as a
Mhm.
strong
Mhm.
unit. That is so important. And since you all are, in education, and deal with our youth, even up to college age. We know how important it is for our young people to see positive images. It's so important. So, Mona, sorry, sis, I can't give you a pass, and I don't feel bad for you, but I do hope that from this, maybe you can do a little look see in the mirror and say, maybe we can make some improvements to the image that we're putting out there of women, black women, and black men. I don't really watch
Yeah.
your show, so I don't know, but
Yeah.
I know it's always something in the mix.
Hmm.
So, yeah, so that was a good little
Hmm.
dip in our hot topics. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. We're going to ask Kayla and Fred all about their businesses, all about what they have to offer. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Bowtie Brown Productions presents Listen to My Thoughts with J. Damian Brown on Facebook every Tuesday at 9:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Listen to My Thoughts, a Bowtie Brown production.
So I am super excited to have you all here to talk about this because education is so important, and especially, since we had this whirlwind of a pandemic, and our lives were turned upside down. I think for many of us, if we don't have children, while I was very conscious of it, mostly because of the youth in the church, sometimes your mind can drift from it a little bit, but they really had it rough, right? They had to switch from being in school to not being in school to figuring virtual out and all of that stuff. And we'll talk, but it takes special people, listen, to be in education, to deal with children, teenagers, college age, it just takes special people to be in education. So before we even start to talk about your businesses and the services that you offer, I want both of you to give us a kind of little background of how you got started in a career in education, what made you want to do it, when did you realize you wanted to do it, all of that good stuff. Just tell us how you landed here.
Yeah, for me, I actually started college wanting to be a pediatrician. I was like,
Okay.
I like science. I want to make a lot of money, and I like working with kids. So pediatrics is like the natural way to go. But when that's not your calling, God is gonna continue to like tap you on the shoulder, push you
Yes.
and nudge you until you just move. And so I struggled a lot with organic chemistry and other sciences, and that was God's way of saying it's not that you can't get it, but this is not meant for you. There's a reason why
Mm,
you're struggling and
that's a lesson right there.
experiencing this. And so I really had to do some reflection, and I was like, what brings me joy?
Mm,
Working with kids, being a mentor. I said, what career allows me to do that every day?
mm.
Teaching. It was real natural. I came to that conclusion really quickly, and so that's really what pushed me to go into the field of education. I never had a teacher who I connected with. I never had a teacher, even though I'm
Really?
from New Orleans. I
Mm-hmm.
went to high school in Massachusetts and then back down for college. So all my high school teachers were white. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and didn't I had some great teachers, don't get me wrong, but none of them I connected with personally, and I always said I want to be that teacher for students. And so I'm no longer in the classroom, but my experience as a teacher is one that has shaped every part of my career.
Sure. And right before we come to you, Kayla, so did you go to like secondary school, elementary school in New Orleans, and then you went to Massachusetts, and then you were back here?
Yeah, I was in New Orleans until eighth grade, so New Orleans private school mostly through
Okay.
eighth grade, then Massachusetts for high school, and then came back down for college.
Okay, because I was gonna ask you, I don't know where we rank in education in Louisiana. I know we're not the greatest, so I was just gonna kind of ask you, what was that like? What was, first of all, geographically, it's two totally different situations, but what was it like going from being in school in Louisiana in the South and then going way up north? What was that transition like for you?
A few things pop up. One, you go from being in a situation where everybody looks like you. Now you're in a situation where very few people, you searching, you looking like, where am I here? That was weird at first, but being that young, you kind of just get used to it. Um, it was very clear though that like the resources that the high school had, like they had labs with equipment, with teachers that had taught in college and are now teaching high school. So the quality of education was much better. There was also just a ton of opportunity in terms of sports and extracurricular activities. Anything that I wanted to get into, there was either a sport or a club that I could do, and I was involved a lot. But I will say the tough part, and I think it was something that helped shape me in terms of the way I think about myself and my identity, was I felt I had something to prove. There were like these small microaggressions where a teacher wouldn't necessarily say something explicitly to me, or students wouldn't say anything explicitly to me or my sisters. I'm a triplet. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. Uh, but you felt it. There was always this tension or these like little side jabs of black people are not smart enough or you're not good enough. And so it was like I had that ingrained in me and had something to prove and felt good about what we were able to accomplish in high school. But yeah, that dynamic really like lit a fire underneath me.
Wow, wow. And you hear about these experiences, but it's not all the time you necessarily come in contact with someone who, had one and can talk about it. And I want to touch back on that a little bit later.
Mhm.
But Kayla, tell us, how did you come to decide you wanted to be in education?
So, funny story. As you mentioned in the beginning of Churchy Chats, I was volunteering through the youth ministry at our church. And at that time, when I come back to Zoe Youth as a volunteer, we were dealing with middle school students, high school students, and every Sunday and events through in between, I got to see that students are at school, but they weren't learning, right? And I got to figure out that a lot of kids were having teachers who didn't want to be there, who didn't love the job, who
Mm-hmm.
was there. I hate to even say this because teachers don't even get paid a lot, but
Right.
they were there to collect that easy check,
Right.
and there was no love, there was no passion behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So just like Fred, I actually embarked on my education journey to become a physician as well. And my bachelor's is in biology and chemistry.
I remember
I
that.
had done everything there was to do to be a physician. I had done my internships at LSU Dentist School and everything. It was set. I was done. Like,
Mm-hmm.
physician track was checked off, it was secured, and in doing the mentorship through Zoe, I saw the need. I
Mm-hmm.
had a brother in high school at the time. I heard the stories. I had a sister in middle school at the time. I heard the stories, and they were all consistent across the board. Teachers were not teaching for the love of teaching. They were
Mm-hmm.
there because it was something easy, is how they looked at it. It was something comfortable. Students were not connecting with teachers, and therefore no learning was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I did a complete shift, complete shift change, and I became a teacher, and I really never looked back. And it was the best decision that I have ever made. And like Fred said, you can push something because it sounds nice, and in society you will look good, like, oh yeah, she's a doctor. But are you really happy? Is it something that when you wake up every morning, are you passionate about? Are you like, will you give your all to it every day? And I'm couldn't be happier with my decision.
and and I kind of feel like teaching, like I do about ministry. People think, I don't know where they get this idea from, that it's all, money, money, and fancy cars and, big houses, because God knows. But, you know, nobody goes into ministry for the money. Well, some people do, but like you said, it's not the type of job that you go into for the money, even if the money is good. I'm not suggesting that um it's a poor life. However, it's just not something you commit yourself to for the money. it's just not. Some people might have that testimony, but it's something that you have to love, right? It's something that you have to commit yourself to because it's about people. It's about more than just you. So both of you were willing to abandon a higher paying, profession. Was that, I know you all said it became clear to you and you knew what you wanted to do, but did you have a little struggle in there? Like, um, I want to do it, but and how did you overcome that? How did you overcome that little struggle to say education is where I need to be?
There was a time where I had actually like committed to, you know what, I'm gonna only make X amount per year, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay with that. Like I had to convince myself of that
Uh-huh.
because I was like, I'm doing good work. I'm having an
Mm-hmm.
impact on life, and that's where I'm gonna get my richness from. And then I had a conversation with a colleague of mine. He was like, you can have both, right?
Mm-hmm.
If wealth is something that you aspire to, and impact is something that you want to make sure before you leave this earth that you want to have, you can have both. They're not mutually exclusive. And so there
Right.
was a moment where I had to kind of come to terms with that. And then mostly it was about exposure. There are plenty, if a certain lifestyle, you want to live a certain lifestyle, or you have a certain goal financially that you want to achieve, you can do
Mm-hmm.
both. One doesn't have to come at the expense of the other, but it's about understanding what is your trajectory, what are the options that are available to you. And honestly, anybody, regardless of your salary, if you do the right things with your money, then you can live the lifestyle you want to live. So that's something else I want anybody watching this that's thinking about going into education or currently in education. If you want to become a millionaire and remain an educator, both can be possible, right? You just have to think about how exactly are you going to do it, and just stick with your plan.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
I agree. I know for me in the beginning, I made a very rash decision.
Uh-huh.
And the only reason why I did is because sometimes I become stagnant in fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I'll just freeze. I'll be like, oh, and I just won't make a move at all. So I just made the move and I was like, let me just try education.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna lie, like the first couple years, I was like, okay, I like it. But then,
Mm-hmm.
like, when it became a struggle, and this is why it became a struggle. I was still young, and
Mm-hmm.
my mental capacity, my thought process was different. So the friends that I went to undergrad with, who were also on the same med school track,
Mm-hmm.
they were graduating med school. They were now doctors. They were now
Mm-hmm.
lawyers. Those of them that went to law school, et cetera, or pharmacy school, and I'm looking at my friends and I'm like, okay, doctor. I'm happy for them. But then I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, dang, I was supposed to be a doctor, right? And then I'm like, okay, I go to work. I love my job.
Mm-hmm.
But then I look at my bank account and I'm like, what's going on, right? And so at first it was a struggle. And it was a struggle for a period, but what kept me going was the fact that I knew I really loved my job. I
Mm-hmm.
had done enough job shadowing and internships in the medical field that I knew it was something I was interested in. But every time I went there, every day I went there, I didn't leave work with the same feeling. I know every time I leave work, I just impacted a child in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
I The medical field is very medical field and immoral sometimes, but I can control my impact on kids. And for me, that was the driving force behind it. And like Fred said, if it's something that you're passionate about, the money will come because you will find avenues to do new things within your passion. And you can always find ways to make it lucrative. And like I said, don't have a concern now, but I'm so glad that I continue to push forward because yeah, there are those hard days when you're comparing your life, but then you just gotta get a grip and know that you have your own lane, your own journey. So, looking to the left and the right won't help you go forward. So you
That's
have to continue
absolutely
to push
right.
forward.
And let me say thank you to you all. You all are younger than me, and you're in that field and you're doing things, and y'all are making a difference. in the lives of children every single day. So thank you for the work that you do because it is not easy work to do. So my hat's off to you. We are going to talk all about both of your businesses when we come back right after this commercial break, so stay tuned. So I know about Elite Tutoring Firm, but okay, y'all have to straighten it all out for me because you, I know you have something going. So I want to hear about everything. I want to hear it all. Tell the people, tell Churchy Chats, what your businesses are, what services they offer, and when you started them. I want to know, were these birthed out of COVID times or what? Just give us the scoop.
I'll let Fred go first.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
go ahead.
I ain't want to hog it. I wouldn't say it was like COVID resulted in me starting fourth education. I
Mhm.
think it was that intersection of realizing generational wealth is something that's really important to me. And unless
Mhm.
I decide to do something differently than clocking in and out for somebody else every day, that is not something that I'll realistically be able to achieve. So, like, I'm going to start a business, and we'll figure out the rest. But truly, it came from wanting to have even more of an impact on students. I work with college students and students on a number of different pathways, military, trade programs, are just direct to career. They graduate high school
Mhm.
and want to work right away. And there's just a lot that I see that they not just supports that they need, but supports that they want. And there aren't a lot of people that look like us, that look like them, that kind of understand their journey, that are leading programs to help support them. And so that's one thing. And also, like, just reflecting on my own college journey. It took me
Mhm.
7 years to graduate from college. I had to drop out because I lost financial aid and get a bunch of odd jobs. And honestly, my students, their stories and what they're going through, I'm like, y'all have the strength of 1,000 people with what
Mhm.
you're pushing through. But I like to hope that a piece of my story can help them, and that's part of what pushed me to found Fourth Education and try to develop trainings and workshops and support families with figuring out how do I help my student to be successful beyond high school or in high school with a perspective on being black, being a black male, and being someone who graduated high school with all the honors and started off on a full scholarship, but
Mhm.
struggled through a lot of the self doubt that can happen when you're at a PWI and the imposter syndrome that can, rear its ugly head when you're trying to figure out what do you want to major in, what are you going to spend the rest of your life doing. So I would say it was birthed more out of just that aha moment. Like,
Mhm.
again, when God puts it on your heart enough, eventually you're going to listen and
Yes.
do something with it. So I think that's really what it was. Me actually listening to God and not just saying I hear you, but doing something with it.
Absolutely. So before we get to you, Kayla, how are these services provided? Is this something that you do? Do you mentor one on one? Is it a group situation? Is it virtual? Is it in person? How are your services provided to these young people?
Yeah, well, right now I've decided to pivot a little bit. Definitely always still open to consulting and working with families directly, virtually, where we can. But right now I've pivoted to doing more of the workshops and public speaking component. And so really want to get in front of as many young adults and young people, whether it be high school, middle school, or college as possible. And the good thing about COVID is I could do that with an organization clean across the country, right? Without
Yes.
having to worry about how to travel. And so that's where I am right now. And the way I like to kind of build those speaking engagements is that teacher, and I'm sure Kayla can speak to this and the different opportunities that she's had, but it's like that teacher in you never goes away. You can never leave a group of young people without making sure and building and structuring that opportunity in a way where you can actually come back to we hit this objective. They are able to do this now as a result of this experience. And so I would say that's how I definitely approach speaking. A lot different than I think a lot of speakers. They might give you, here's the top 3 things you need to do A, B, and C. I'm
Right.
actually going to build time in. We're going to work on that right now, and you're going to build skill and also a mindset, unlock a mindset that's already within you.
That's amazing. Kayla, tell us about your business and how it was birthed and all of that good stuff.
So I obviously have been in education and I have been tutoring, but my business was birthed during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and it was birthed because I finally had a chance to stop for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I was always just kind of on go. I love my job, and I was always trying to think of ways to expand it and still continue it in my own realm. That whole like finding your passion and making it work for yourself
Mm-hmm.
thing. But I think that I was always so busy. Not only was I physically always on go, but my mental was always on go as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what COVID did for me is it gave me a moment to just be able to stay and be put. And then as Fred said, like for me, it was in that moment that I finally was able to hear God. I
Mm-hmm.
think that he'd been talking. I wasn't listening.
Right.
I wasn't listening because I wasn't really taking the time to give him my undivided attention.
Sure.
It'll be for a prayer, a conversation in the car, but to just be still in that moment and listen and receive, I hadn't had a chance to really do that until COVID. And
Mm-hmm.
so in that moment, I kind of got the idea of the tutoring firm. I had been tutoring. The need was there. Students were learning virtually. It was a completely different learning environment than they were used to. And a lot of students and families were struggling.
Mm-hmm.
They are still struggling a lot, a great deal. And this will be an effect on education that's going to last for a while with our kids because, in retrospect, they are 2 years, 2 school years behind
Oh wow.
because COVID started March 2020 here, and now we're in March 2021. But
Mm-hmm.
it's about a year and a half of education that's lost.
Yeah.
You have some kids who are learning, and you have others who are just not in a position to because they are having to be parents to siblings while parents have to work. It's so much.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how it got started. I saw the need, and I just wanted to be a part of the solution. And then I began to collaborate with people around me who are also doing great things in education. And Fred and I collaborated. And then now we birthed something separate as a collaborative effort called Education Exchange, where we go out. We have free workshops virtually right now due to COVID, but we'll be out in public in your face very soon because the world is opening back up.
Yes.
So we are doing free workshops where we are empowering and educating the community with the skills necessary to make sure that their students can thrive, both in distance learning right now. That's the workshop series that we have going on,
Mm-hmm.
but it will expand upon different educational needs as times progress. And so that's what we do through Education Exchange. But what Elite Tutoring Firm does is we provide tutoring services to individuals kinder through life. So even if you're a college student, even if you are studying for um, entrance tests into different
Yeah.
organizations. We are here to assist in any way. We have a team of tutors who are all highly qualified and vetted, and we offer in home, virtual, meet in a central location, however you want to do it. We offer all of the assistance to make sure that we are helping to educate the people and we're giving them the best opportunity to be successful as possible. And so if you visit our website, it says luxurious academic experience. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why it's considered luxury is because at this moment, unfortunately, quality education and having someone to be one on one is a luxury. It's not something that students are receiving within the walls of the schools consistently across the board. And so we just want to meet and bridge that educational gap. So that's Elite Tutoring Firm.
That's amazing. Both of you are doing a great work. And as you were talking about, the discrepancy, in education that is undeniable due to COVID, what can we do? And when I say we, I mean parents, aunts, uncles, community. What can we do to help our children along during this still kind of shaky time. I know a lot of schools now are doing virtual and in person, but it was so sad. I saw an article at the beginning of COVID or somewhere in the middle where a young man, he may have been like 10, and they didn't have internet access. So he was actually going to the school, and he was sitting outside of the school all day just so that he could,
Whew.
do his work and he could be in class. And they were like, he can't do that. And his mom was like, listen, please, it's the only way, we live literally, you know, a stone's throw away. I'll check on him, throughout the day. I just need him to be here because otherwise he cannot do his work. And I know that that is something, unfortunately, that people are dealing with. But even when we have internet access at home and we have everything we need, that can also be, an issue because, you have distractions and all of this stuff. But what can we do as the adults in the community to help our children along during this time?
I think the biggest thing. Oh, go ahead, Caleb.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Honestly, the biggest thing has nothing to do with academics. Self
Mm-hmm.
care is a big term that's being used now, but I don't know if even I, up until maybe a few months ago, really understood what that looks like practically.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to now teach our students how to take care and prioritize themselves. And that's not playing video games, right? That's
Right.
not that's not sleeping, right? Rest,
Mm-hmm.
getting more rest can be a way, but I think deeper than that, it's about teaching kids how to be self-reflective, be aware of how am I feeling, why am I feeling this way, and what can I do about it. I think taking that time to journal, dance, sing, walk around outside, just the act of saying, you know what, these are 15 minutes that are for me, and I'm going to spend that time with myself, listening to music, writing music. I think there are more ways that we can teach students how to take care of themselves and how to prioritize self-care that is, if it's not explicitly taught, then we're going to confuse and conflate me spending time doing distracting myself from the world versus actually let me engage with the
Yes.
feelings and thoughts that I have right now. And I think that will actually do a lot to help with the academics. But I feel like without that foundation of emotional and mental health and awareness, the academics doesn't really matter. So that would be my biggest thing for parents and community members to do.
And I think that's such a great point, for Fred, because um, recently I lost someone really close to me, right? So I haven't experienced a loss like this in some time. And what I have been trying to allow myself to do is kind of like you said, is first identify the feelings that I'm having. And then instead of trying to not have them, allow them to play out,
Yeah.
right? No matter how painful it may be in that moment, if I don't allow it to play out, then I won't progress, right?
Mhm.
We have to progress in every area and grief and all of that. So I'm like, I may feel bad again, but it won't be this again, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm allowing myself in each moment to one identify what I'm feeling and then to deal with it. And I
Right.
think that's something that we don't really teach our children. And like you said, not escaping. Don't turn on Netflix and just get your mind completely somewhere that you're not focused on self and you are not dealing with what's going on inside of you. I think that's all very very important, especially in the world of, like I said, Netflix, Xbox. There's always something, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
Mhm.
There's so many things to pull them away from their own thoughts that can actually be dangerous in the long run. But Caleb, what would you say? What can we do? What are we not doing that could really be helping our children?
I would just say get active, stay active. Children love consistency and children love structure. As much as they might give pushback on it, if you have ever babysat a child, you know that if their normal nap time is at noon and it is 12:10 and they have not laid down yet, they're going to be cranky. So
Right.
like it's just the way in which we support our kids that matters, and that's the background behind their success. So being able to be there and say, okay, what is going on at school? What are you learning? What is coming up? How can I assist you? I know that parents may not feel adequate to assist with the content because they might not be comfortable with it.
Sure.
But just knowing, okay, my mom or my parent is looking to see what I have for homework. They're looking to see what tests are coming up. They're holding me accountable. That way, when I go to school, I know that this is my job and I'm also going to be held accountable. Um, that's one thing, but also making sure that you're having positive talk with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Positive talk is so important, and it plays into what Fred is saying about self care and taking that time. Because a lot of children, they're having that defeated mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So they might see some new content or learn new content in class, and it might be challenging. But instead of pushing through that hard moment, they'll just block and say, "I don't get it. I'm done." They'll shut down, and that makes it difficult for them to progress in their education because of their mindset. But
Mm-hmm.
mindset is built both in the classroom, out of the classroom, at home, within the community. So it's very, very important to have positive talk, to be supportive, to be patient, because it is a thing of patience, and to make sure that you're active. Children want to know that you care, and they don't care until you show that it's something to care about. So that's how adults can help children be more successful within their education and within life.
Yeah, and I think the positive talk aspect is so important. You all know the big Kirk Franklin thing that was going on about a month ago. I don't even know if it's been a month, but and I know I understand. I mean, I can't relate because my family situation has never been anything of the sort. And I'm not saying that to say, oh, because my parents are Christians or my dad's a pastor. That's just never been our family dynamic. But I do think that in the black community, we could benefit a little bit from allowing our children to express themselves in the way that we sometimes parent or adult them, because it can be across the board. And I'll take my licks where I may have been harsh or made the youth feel some kind of way. Not purposely, just maybe in a moment of discipline, but in retrospect, and just kind of seeing how stuff plays out, I always want to be the adult. I'm not a parent yet, but I always want to be the adult. I always want to be the parent that my child can come to me and say, Mama, I understand I made a mistake. I understand I did wrong, but what you said or how you said it hurt my feelings. Or what you said made me feel little or whatever. I want to have that open relationship because I'm not always right just because I'm mama or just because I'm adult,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we could benefit in some areas from that. No, I'm not saying let your children disrespect you or talk back. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that just having more of an open communication with our children and
Absolutely.
allowing them to say, you made me feel like this. And it may not have been intentional. I just think those are important conversations to have. And then back to Fred's point, then they're able to better identify their feelings as adults, and as young adults,
Mhm.
because they didn't have to suppress that, growing up. So both of you made excellent points. Kayla?
I agree. I was just going to add on to what you were saying. Is that I know for me within my classroom, what is effective or what works for me is that I operate off of mutual respect.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so much of I'm the adult, I'm the teacher, you're the child, I'm always right, you're always wrong, but just modeling for students when I do make a mistake. Hey guys, Miss Tanner did that. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, just in moments of discipline or in moments of talking and being an adult sometimes, or a human rather, we say things and sometimes our delivery is not what we intend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or we might have a disagreement or we might not understand the child in that moment, but we're so used to the mindset of, well, I'm not really trying to hear what you're talking about because I'm the adult, And so kids never get to freely express their emotions without feeling like there's going to be a consequence for it. But
Absolutely.
when you can have a conversation with the child and they can say, hey, mom, hey, dad, or teacher, when you yelled at me, it didn't make me feel well.
Mm-hmm.
But if you would have just told me what I did wrong and we had a conversation about it, then it can move forward. But then that also goes into that accountability piece.
Right.
Children feel more comfortable with you holding them accountable when they realize that both parties are human and both parties
Mm-hmm.
can say when they're wrong,
Absolutely.
right? And so that positive talk, that open communication is so important because it helps to develop them as better adults as well. So
Yes, absolutely. Fred, did you want to add anything to that?
I really, I mean, I appreciate you talking about and highlighting the fact that we have to be open in communication. I don't have children yet either, but actually, I was just kind of making a small note earlier before we hopped on, and I was just
Mm-hmm.
reflecting on voice, an idea of voice, because it's something that I'm going to be doing a workshop on soon. But I remember as a part of a previous workshop, I actually
Mm-hmm.
allowed parents to role play. One was the
Okay.
student, one was the parent, and they had to work with each other, or not work with each other, but what they had to do is the student came home and was really disgruntled about a grade that they got, right?
Mm-hmm.
Upset. And what I found is parents have this switch of asking, well, what did you do? Did you try this? Did you try that? And it's very condescending in tone. And it's like pointing the finger and wagging a finger. And a
Yeah.
student doesn't walk away, a kid doesn't walk away feeling empowered from that interaction. They don't walk away feeling good about themselves. If anything, you just created more self doubt, or you help to
Mm-hmm.
confirm the voice in their head that tells them they're not good enough, they're not doing enough. And so, in that piece of the workshop, what I tried to flip is you can make very simple switches or shifts in your language that
Mm-hmm.
actually put the thinking and the processing on the student, but that also help to build identity and voice. So, asking things like, well, what has worked for you?
mhm.
What are you doing well? How can
Mm-hmm.
you replicate that? What do you think you could do about this problem? How can you
Right.
take ownership over this situation? There's a number of different questions, but one, it forces the student to kind of think in a solutions oriented way. Also, what are your strengths? Where are you strong? And
Mm-hmm.
how can a strength that you have actually push you forward through this adversity that you experience? And now we're actually building up in kids that you actually have the thing within you already to
Mm-hmm.
succeed. We just got to tap into it and unlock it and apply it in maybe a different way that you might not be used to. So I was really glad when I heard you and Kayla talk about that piece, the identity and voice piece of it.
Yeah, I need to come to one of your workshops because listen, it sounds like it can help me out too.
Look, I got you.
I want you all, we're going to take one last commercial break. This has been such a great conversation. I want to thank you all again. But when we come back, I want you to just kind of speak directly to a student, a child who may be struggling, in their education journey and just kind of give them some encouragement. And that's how we will wrap up our show for tonight. We'll be right back.
Churchy Chats is now airing on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow on all platforms.
As I've said, we've had such a wonderful conversation tonight, and I want to end it with Kayla and Fred just giving a word of encouragement to a student. And this student may be, college. This may be somebody who went back to school. This is not necessarily for children, but I know that educators have a heart for the young people or students. Let me stop saying young people. Let me say students. So if there's somebody out here watching who just may be struggling in their education journey, maybe wanting to give up. Fred, you spoke about, it taking you a little bit to finish college because of your financial aid. Just, you know, give a word of encouragement to someone who just may need it tonight.
Yeah, I would tell those students where you are right now and how you're feeling right now is exactly where you are supposed to be. And it is okay to be where you are right now. God has already put everything, whether it's a mindset or a skill, everything you need is already within you. You're not a cup waiting to be filled, right? There's no space in you waiting to be filled, but this is all a part of your development and evolution. Just embrace this moment. Take time to figure out and talk with God. What is it that you want me to learn or get better at through this experience? And then just commit to doing one thing, right? This is not going to be something that tomorrow everything is better. You're getting all A's or you're feeling more confident in this area. It is going to take work because faith without works is dead. And so you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe that God, this is all a part of his purpose and plan for you. And then you got to put in the work. So commit to doing at least one thing a little bit better this week. And then the next week, build on that and you'll be all right.
Great word. Now tell everybody where they can find you on social and all of that good stuff. Where can they find Fred?
Yeah, you can find me at Fourth Education. That's FOURTH Education, all one word, on Instagram, on Twitter, and you can also on Facebook, Frederick J. Johnson the fourth. You can find me.
Thank you so much again, Fred, for coming on Churchy Chats tonight. I really appreciate it and enjoyed the conversation.
No problem.
Kayla, what's your word to students that are struggling?
My word is just, I know it's so cliche, but it's just don't give up. Have that perseverance to continue going. As Fred said, it is a journey. Take it one step at a time, but the most important thing is just to be present in the moment. So oftentimes we're always thinking about our next move, what needs to happen. We're always comparing and contrasting our situation to someone else's situation. As I said before, looking side to side and backwards doesn't help you go forward. You can be reflective on where you made your mistakes, but in the moment, you have to just keep going. Okay. If something didn't work, cool. It wasn't meant to work. If an opportunity didn't happen, don't beat yourself down. It wasn't meant to happen. If you didn't get accepted into something, that moment wasn't the time for you to be accepted into it. Everything will fall into place when you are in the right position to receive it. And I know we've heard that a million times, but I live in testimony that there were definitely things I thought I was ready for that in hindsight, if I would have received that blessing at that time, I would not have held it properly. I would not have used it in the way that it was meant for me to use it in the magnitude that I might have wanted to because I wasn't in the right space. So just be present in the moment, prepare yourself, constantly figure out what is there that I could do to get better and take that one step at a time. Be patient with yourself and know that you're human. It's still going to happen. Your goals are still going to happen. Your destiny for your life is still going to manifest. You're going to be great. You are equipped. God is within you. You will not fall. That's my favorite verse. He's within you. You will not fall. You may stumble, but you're not going to fall because he's going to catch you.
Yeah.
So even in your lowest moments, know that a day is only 24 hours. So that feeling will only last 24 hours. But when you get that new day, it's your choice and your decision to change that. So always be willing to make the right choice.
Very good. Very encouraging. Tell everybody where they can find you on social and all of that good stuff.
On Facebook and on Instagram, it's Elite Tutoring Firm, all one word. We also have a website, www.elitetutoringfirm.com. And if you also are looking for more workshops that we have coming up, Fred and I, through Education Exchange, we are hosting another Thriving in Distance Learning workshop on April 10th. When you visit our social media platforms, you will be able to get more information on how to register for that free virtual workshop. We will be working with members of the community, trying to equip, empower, and educate our people to have the skills necessary for them and their families to thrive in learning, whether distance or in person. So definitely reach out to us. We are willing and open to help you in any way possible.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much to both of you for being on tonight. I want to have you both back where we can just do like one of our normal churchy chats where we just kind of talk about hot topics and stuff like that. But it was a
Absolutely.
great conversation. Thank you again for the work that you all are doing. It is a great work. So don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Keep going. Thank you both. And please, Kayla, send me that so that I can also post about your workshops and the things that you have going on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thank you.
having us. It was definitely, we appreciate it. It was a blessing being here, having conversation with you guys. We're definitely going to impact lives of so many people. We're going to continue to manifest the growth and development and success of all of our endeavors. And so I appreciate you for having us, definitely.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for tuning in to Churchy Chats tonight. I am so excited about next week's episode. A Churchy Chats regular. He's a friend of mine. His name is Dante Jackson. He will be on talking about his divorce. He um, was a preacher, a pastor. He is a preacher. I'm saying was. He is a preacher, but he was pastoring at the time. And we know that navigating, these life things as Christians, especially in leadership, can be difficult. But we're going to have a good old conversation next week. I hope you will tune in right here, same place, same time on Churchy Chats with the Church Girl. Good night.